it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait.
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to the Muscle, Mind, and Money Podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Dominic.
And this is Nastasia. Now on to the show.
All right, welcome back. We are better than ever, and the reason that we are better than ever is we have our most popular guest back with us again, Logan Dube. Nastasia, introduce.
All right, everybody. You asked to hear from Logan again, and so here we are. We are on episode, we said 14. Logan is back to talk about why change is good and how we can manage stress during this time most effectively through exercise and probably some Zen as well. So welcome back, Logan.
Thanks, guys. It's awesome to be here. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me back. This is always a good time, so I appreciate it.
Now, Logan, since you last joined us, and I'm even quoting probably the numbers wrong. I think it was episode number 6. It's by far our most popular podcast. Personal friends, family members, they have mentioned us. First is, who is Logan? What are they with their knowledge? This is amazing how simple it was. Loved it. And I'd say the chemistry was phenomenal. But how you covered nutrition with your 1, 2, 3 step program, and I think it just connected so well. And it's just people talk. I'm going to call it people talk. It was something that just really went well. And even Nastasia was speaking to a friend last night over the phone and said, oh, we're going to have another guest. We're going to have Logan on. And she was, oh my God, I love Logan. Like you're already famous. And I don't know if it's one listener famous or a million listener famous, but we want to greatly appreciate everything that you do. With our podcast, we've set it up just to be pro bono, public service. Who listens in and who doesn't is completely just up to the betterment of the community. But you've been, since last couple of weeks, you've been doing quite a bit of online audio, video, a ton of stuff. Can you tell a little bit in our audience about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, my job is I'm the director of education for Steve Nash Fitness World and Sports Clubs, and I'm also the director of the BC Personal Training Institute. So I've been tasked while I'm working from home to do as much as I can to generate content and just kind of try to maintain some connection for our members and our students. So, we've got lots of workout videos, and we've got lots of, just conversations and information just to try to help people out. So the easiest places to find that would be all the workout stuff and all the live streaming classes and all that. Easy to find that on snclubs.com. So like Steve Nash, snclubs.com. And then if you want to see more the student side of things, the easiest place to find that would just be on Instagram at BCPTI. So British Columbia Personal Training Institute, BCPTI. And those are kind of the two places that I'm trying to, put out as much as I can and answer questions and just do whatever I can to help.
Yeah, and I noticed that Steve Nash Clubs is streaming live workouts a couple times a day. Are you doing any of them, or is that more just the group fitness instructors?
You know what? I'm doing them. I'm in my living room doing them because it's my little workout break, but that's actually being led by mostly our group fitness team, which, man, you couldn't ask for like a more positive, inspiring, happy, fit bunch of people to, stream into your living room. So it's actually been really cool just to kind of humanize this whole thing. They're like teaching class in their living room, and they're just putting it out there for whoever wants to join. So if you like yoga, Zumba, if you want to do core, there was a knockout, like a cardio knockout class last night. It's been really cool. We're just trying to help people kind of maintain that sort of group fitness community vibe that they're used to, right? Like they like working out with someone with great music. So yeah, those are all on the Facebook page for Steve Nash, and they're all free, and they're actually a ton of fun. I kind of hope we keep doing them even after this all settles down, because not everybody can make it into the club all the time, but. They've been doing a great job of that. So I get to be a participant for those ones. It's kind of fun.
Awesome.
Not Zumba, though. Let's be real.
Oh, see, I looked up the other day, and I was only looking for the Zumba, so I will not see you in class. But I am looking forward to doing some in my living room as well. I just told Dominic yesterday about Zumba, and he was like, well, you can do that. You go for it, sister.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's jump in. So as we talk about how to stay mentally and physically fit during this time that we are at home. I got a message from a friend that was like, do you know where I can buy a TRX? They're like $290 online. So this whole scarcity of I can't find equipment. And then somebody else posted that they were at Walmart. This was in the States. They just wanted to go get some like dumbbells and the whole shelf was sold out. So do we need to go make a home gym in a quick hurry right now, or are there other ways to do this, Logan?
You know what? That's a great question. And I think in general, the impetus is positive, because if people were like, man, I got to keep up with my workouts, that's awesome. But I think there's some ways where we can slow down and not freak out and still get a ton of benefit. So the way that I've kind of been talking about it is, we want to like everybody has a goal, right? And your goal is not to spend 6 hours a week at the gym. Your goal is to be fit and healthy and strong and, functionally capable. And so you go to the gym to make that happen. But if you can't go to the gym, there's still ways to make that happen. So if we stay focused on the goal, we just have to get a little bit creative. And we can do that in some simple ways. So what I've been talking to, we've been trying to connect with, our own clients and members and family members. We're getting lots of questions, same as you. And what I've just been saying to kind of help people prioritize a little bit is like, hey, if we want to be fit and healthy, there's definitely a reason to pay attention to being healthy right now. Like we know that there's some stuff going on that potentially gets in the way of that. So if we were to prioritize being healthy first, the things that we want to do are manage stress first and foremost, because stress in lots of ways is going to impact our immune system. It's going to impact how much energy we have. So if our number one priority was to manage stress, then the way that we can do that is like sleep enough, like get good quality sleep. You might be at home all day and you don't have to get up in the morning to go to work. So maybe you stay up and watch a movie, but like maybe just set a time to go to bed and prioritize getting a good night's sleep. That would be a great way to stay healthy. And then also like stay hydrated, drink enough water. There's so many systems in your body that need water to do their job. And then exercise, because exercise is actually a really great way to help relieve stress. So we sort of look at it, we call that like the umbrella concept right now. We want to prioritize managing stress by doing those three things. That's going to be a great place to start. So if we all just take a deep breath and just focus on starting from there, that's going to be a really good place to start.
Now, Logan, when it comes to stress management, it also plays a big role on your immune system, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so it's a balance of that, because you can over-exercise and actually lower your immune system. You don't get enough sleep, you lower your immune system. You don't stay hydrated, lowers your immune system. Isn't there like a holistic kind of whole system that works that way?
Yeah. And so if we were going to, as the science person, if we were going to touch on that a tiny bit, you guys might even remember I talked about it in the nutrition podcast. I was talking about homeostasis, like the goal of the body to stay in this nice optimal zone. So when we look at stress, that's one of the things that pushes us outside of that. So when stress, another way of talking about it would be allostatic load. And allostatic load is anything that takes us out of that nice homeostatic range. So if we don't get a good night's sleep, you wake up the next morning and you're tired and your heartbeat's actually a little bit higher. Like you don't even really recover. Now your heart's beating faster. And you also are way more likely to crave sweet and fat foods when you haven't had a good night's sleep. So then it makes, nutrition choices harder. It also just means that you're kind of running on less energy. The example that I use for my clients is like when you drive a rental car, you kind of beat the shit out of it. Like you drive really fast and then you slam on the brakes and you don't really care because you're going to give it back in a couple of days. So like not getting a good night's sleep is kind of like you wake up the next morning and you start driving your body like it's a rental car. So there's, the whole idea of this homeostasis is like realistically, there's an awful lot of things that contribute. But again, if we just focused on simple, big ticket items, sleep, hydration, and exercise would just be really awesome. Obviously nutrition, but we talked about that last time. But those are kind of the big three. And we always say control what you can control, right? So the crazier things get, the more important it is to just focus on what you can actually manage And I would sort of say, again, those three are kind of coming up as the big ones to pay attention to.
So for me, I know it's easy to say sleep well, but what I'm finding right now with I'm a very I'm a worrywart and I'm a stressor and I have anxiety. And on the days that I don't do my yoga, I don't eat well and I don't work out, I'm not sleeping well. So it's like this whole system that works together. And if you're eating a lot or you're at home and drinking a ton because you're bored, we saw our neighbor literally on the street.
Oh, don't out that person. That's awful.
Okay. Anyway, he was stocking up at the liquor store and looked at us like he had just gotten caught. And we're like, we don't really care what you do, but it's reality of the situation. Every day is a Friday. So we have to be careful about those choices because I think the choices we make in the day affect how we sleep at night. And to lower anxiety and lower stress for people like me, I do think that the things we're going to go through today as year 1, 2, 3 with the exercise, it's make it or break it for me. When I do those things in the day, I'm having a good sleep at night. And when I don't do those things in the day, I'm not sleeping well at night. So let's get into this whole, how can exercise help us manage our stress and help us sleep well?
But let me jump in on this one because it's first, for taking notes and clarity of the audience, physically you gotta relax. So when you're managing stress from sleep and exercise and just managing the body stress, there's a mental stress right now within the state of the economy is all the gyms are closed. Mm-hmm. And I know this will take us into the exercise part. And so there's the stress of what do I do? And Nastasia opened the show with, should I go on Amazon and buy ridiculously priced equipment right now because everyone's jacking up the price? Or I'm used to going to the brick and mortar gym, and Logan's doing a ton of online data stuff to help people get through this. But this is where I think we got to relieve the stress of it's okay. It's part of the program if you think about it.
Yeah, to make this change.
Because this is the mental stress. Once I feel I have control over something like working out or I have an alternative to what I'd normally have been pre-programmed to do, I'm engaged to go do it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the whole reason why you called this podcast Change is Good is we've all been forced into a state of change. And what happens when we have to change is we get stressed out. It's hard, right? Part of what having a routine is all about is it's easy to follow. You just kind of go on autopilot and you do your thing. And people actually do that in their workouts a lot too. A lot of times, as trainers, we're at the gym watching the people that are working out on their own, and it's oh yeah, it must be Monday. They're doing the same 6 things they did last Monday and the Monday before that. Mm-hmm. So we start to see people kind of get into this rut. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because at the end of the day, you're getting up and you're moving, and that's awesome. But you don't necessarily change. You don't necessarily adapt. Your body doesn't necessarily get better, because you're already good at doing that thing that you're doing. So maybe what we were sort of trying to talk about in this podcast is oh crap, we got to change. But hey, here's why that's a good thing. Because when let's say you're looking at how a trainer writes a program, we actually program in change. We call it progression or periodization. And so for a period of time, you're going to learn something new. And at first it's a little bit awkward, but then you start to figure it out, and then you kind of get better at it. And then you feel okay, I've really mastered this. And at that point, your trainer's going to go, okay, now it's time to change. What? I just mastered it. So, but that's the whole point, is we go through kind of maybe this 4 to 6 week period of time where we're getting better and better and better at something, and it's kind of challenging us and it's pushing us and we're getting results. Mm-hmm. And then we got to change. We move into the next phase, or we move into a different style of training. And so that's actually really normal for us already. That's how we write programs. When people work out on their own and they come to us, often they're saying, hey, give me a routine I can do for the rest of my life. I want a routine that covers everything, and I'm gonna learn it from you, and then I'm gonna be on my own for the rest of forever. And I'm like, well, I get it, I really do, but that's not what a proper program is. A program changes just like you do. Your program has to grow and evolve and change. So when we work with clients who work with us long-term, a big part of what they're getting is the consistency of the change. And then that's where they're getting the best result.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wonderful.
So that kind of was like, we might as well take this period of time where we're being forced to change and see the benefit of that for maybe people that don't sort of naturally go seek out that kind of cycle in their training.
Let me give you some profiles of fitness, let's call them members. So a Dominic comes to you. I don't cardio. I really like the weights and the dumbbells and the heavy lifting. I don't have that ability to do that right now. Should I take this time, focus on heart health? Should I even cardio? I mean, we work out. So a lot of people work out for goals, sports specific. There's vanity, there's health. There's a ton of reasons why people work out. But let's say I am the vanity. I like the muscle. I like the pump. But right now, the only thing I can think of is to go run on the seawall or grab my bike and ride around. And then I get crazy. My brain starts taking over, thinking like that's the last thing you want to do because you're trying to lose your gains. How can you coach someone like that that's got that kind of profile right now?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I'm going to drop a little bit of science into this one because I think it's going to help people maybe understand like the benefit of that change up. So we've got like the way the body generates energy. We take food and we turn it into energy that allows us to move and work out and talk and do all the things we have to do. We have 3 energy systems, but I'm gonna kind of talk about 2 of them. So the base level one, we would call it the aerobic energy system, and all that means is that the amount of intensity that I'm experiencing is below the amount of oxygen I'm bringing in. So right now we're aerobic because we're breathing in oxygen, and our heart is able to pump the oxygen out to our body, and all the cells are getting the nutrients and the oxygen that they need, so no big deal. Fun fact is, in order to drive where we are right now, we're probably burning fat. If we were to go out for a jog, our heart rate goes up. You could probably jog for like a while. Let's assume you're reasonably fit. You could probably jog for a while, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever. What that means is you're still in the aerobic system. Mm-hmm. You're still breathing in enough oxygen that you can fuel your body the way that it needs to be fueled. And that's why you can go for so long. That's why it's endurance, right? You're probably burning sugar more than fat because now you're at a higher intensity, but you're still doing it with enough oxygen. So for you, Dominic, you love to lift. But what that probably means is your aerobic energy system, there's a lot of opportunity there. And if you were to switch your focus for a minute or for, a couple weeks or something, the thing you got to remember is your heart is actually a muscle. And so your heart being stronger is going to make it so that you can actually do that muscle gain, pump, workout that you like better, right? So a lot of times when people first start coming to the gym and they're like, I want to lift weights and I want to get stronger, if your heart isn't strong enough, you're not actually going to be able to do that pump workout the way you need to in order to get the result you want. So what you should actually do is start by strengthening your heart and then progress into that workout where you're now challenging your muscle tissue, right? So we're all forced to change. I think a lot of us maybe, especially gym goers, especially weightlifters, I think probably underestimate the importance of that aerobic system. So this might be a great time to just kind of, beef that one up a little bit. So that's the aerobic system. Then we talk about the anaerobic system, and all that means is lack of oxygen or no oxygen. And so what happens, let's say you're sprinting as fast as you can, or you're doing a spin class, or you're lifting weights. You've got like a 45-second to maybe 2-minute window where you can work at that intensity before you just have to stop and take a rest. Like if you're doing bicep curls and it's heavy enough, you're going to get to a point where you can't even do one more curl. Your muscles are burning and you can't possibly bend your elbow one more time. Or if you're sprinting, you're going as fast as you can. Maybe you get to 45 seconds, maybe a minute, and then you're like, oh my God, you got to jump your feet to the side and you got to catch your breath because you're huffing and puffing and your legs are burning, right? So that's when we're at a high enough intensity that we're using up all the oxygen. The amount we're breathing in isn't enough, and the body has to figure out a different way to make energy. And it's really good at it. It breaks down sugar and it helps drive energy. But now the byproduct is called lactic acid, and that's what that burning feeling is. So you start lifting weights, or you start running, or you're doing a spin class, you're doing battle ropes or whatever, you're doing this really high intensity exercise, you actually get to a point where you're like, oh my God, I can't go anymore. That's what tells you you're using the anaerobic system. And a lot of time workouts kind of switch back and forth. They use a bit of both. But if you're really dominant in one, you're not really going to be as good in the other one. And so when we look at programming and periodization, when we talk about the benefit of change, part of what we might be doing is looking at the energy system profile underneath what you're doing and making sure that we maintain access to both. We don't want to be just super dominant in one and sort of lose the benefit of the other one. So that's kind of one of the things that we could be looking at these days, is making sure that we're getting that balance. Now, if you're a super cardio dominant person and you're like, okay, fine, maybe I should get into this anaerobic system, but I don't have a gym, how am I going to do it? It's cool. We've got some ideas as well.
Okay, so for the cardio, if we are typically, I feel like you're either on one end of the spectrum or the other. Like, we never do cardio, and then there's people that they're on their Peloton or they're on the treadmill for an hour and a half a day, and they're really, really well conditioned in their cardio. So if you're like us, is a walk good enough? Like an hour-long walk? Do we need to be sprinting up hills? Do we go into the stairwell and run the stairs? Like, what do we do right now? Because I think cardio, we can get it, like, you can get it in anywhere. You can go outside. So there's not an issue with us being able to do that. But what amount and to what extreme do we go to? We've kind of been taking 30-minute walks, and every time I tell Dominic, I'm like,
stop. We're not doing anything. We're walking the dog around the block.
Yeah, for like half an hour. I'm not talking about hikes. Wait, and I'm like, check the time. I feel like we've been going for an hour. I'm sweating sweating, and he's like, it's been 20 minutes. So that's, but like, is that good enough? Where do we go with this?
Yeah, that's a super great question. So I actually pose the same question to the trainers all the time. I teach the energy systems, and then I say, okay, guys, do you agree with me that having access to these two systems is important? Like, can we all, as science-based fitness professionals, agree that a cardiovascular baseline is important, that heart health is important, that having some endurance is important? And they all kind of go, yeah, you're right. Okay, so then I say, well then, so when someone comes in and starts working with you, how do you know where they're at? How do you know which energy system they have access to? How do you know what their body is currently capable of doing? And then there's like this big silence. So one of the things that we try to teach trainers is, if you don't know anything about this person and you just make a programming decision, you're guessing. You actually don't know if you're giving that person the right thing. So what we want to do here is start off with just a really simple assessment so that we like kind of get a sense of where we're starting from, right? So what I would say for you guys, like if you're not, working with a trainer or something, the idea here is to understand something called rate of perceived exertion. So if you're a moderately fit person, like if you're way out on the spectrum of like severely obese or like an Ironman triathlete, this wouldn't really apply for you. But kind of that middle of the bell curve, we're pretty good at estimating how hard we're working on a scale of 1 to 10. So if 1 was like, I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie, and 10 was, I'm sprinting as fast as I can because I'm being chased by a bear, like that, we're pretty good at that. So if you were to go for a walk, Nastasia, and you were like, okay, how do I feel right now? I'm sweating, I've been walking for 20 minutes, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do I feel like I'm at? Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 6, whatever. That's actually pretty good. As in terms of like a simple assessment, that's pretty great. So if you're at a 5 or a 6, and that's kind of the zone that you're doing the majority of your exercise in from a cardio perspective, then that's kind of the zone that you own, right? But if I were to say, okay, you went for a 20-minute walk, you were at a 5 or a 6, could you go for a 20-minute jog and maintain like a 7 to an 8? Maybe not. You could probably do it for a few minutes, but you wouldn't be able to sustain it for 20, right?
Correct.
The benefit of getting better at that 7 to 8 zone would be that that's kind of the threshold between aerobic and anaerobic. And if we wanted you to sort of be able to get a little bit more fit, then we'd want to spend a little bit of time there. So here's a great example. Let's say you're doing nothing at all right now. start with that 5 to 6 out of 10 intensity, maybe for 10 minutes, maybe for 15 minutes, like kind of like do what you can. And the psychology of how much time you're spending is definitely a part of it. So like, do what you can. If you start with 10 minutes, that's better than the 0 that you did yesterday. If you go for 20 minutes and you feel pretty good, great. 20 minutes is your threshold. But if you're doing nothing, start at 5 or 6 out of 10.
Okay.
And I would say kind of anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes, and then build up, like get to the point where you could do it for 45 minutes, maybe. If you're already doing that, the next step would be to go like, I'm going to walk for a minute, and then maybe I'm going to walk fast for the next minute. Or I'm going to try to find an area where I can walk flat and then walk uphill. Or I'm going to walk for a bit, and then I'm going to do a jog for a bit. So it's kind of like this run, walk, flat hill kind of like alternation, and it's like a minute on, a minute off. Again, like we don't have to be super specific right now, but just kind of alternate between maybe that 5 or 6 out of 10 feeling and then maybe that 7 to 8 out of 10 feeling. And you could do that for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So that'd kind of be a great example of like where you could start from. How's that sound?